I'm Micah, 34. My ex Ashley and I were together 6 years, married 3. We have a daughter Ophelia who was 4 when everything imploded. Ashley decided she wanted out, gave me some nonsense about feeling suffocated. I wasn't perfect, but I worked full-time while she stayed home with our kid. Fine, divorce happens. Except 3 weeks after she announced she wanted to separate, I came home and the apartment was half empty. Ashley gone? Ophelia gone? No note. She finally texted around midnight saying she needed space and Ophelia was safe, and I shouldn't contact them for a while. For a while. Like my daughter was borrowed furniture. Yo, we are 3 paragraphs in and Ashley has already committed an actual crime. Like that's not needing space, that's called parental kidnapping, and it's in the legal code with page numbers and everything. And the way she worded that text, don't contact us for a while. She really wrote that like she was borrowing his Netflix password and would return it when she remembered. Sir, that is your child. She has a birth certificate with your name on it. This isn't a let me figure myself out situation. This is a let me call the police situation. But hold on, let me buckle up because I have a feeling this man's support system is about to be non-existent. Quick context about my parents, Earl and Nellie. My older brother went into finance, bought them vacations, golden child status. I dropped out of community college, worked retail, bounced between jobs. They never let me forget it. At my wedding reception, my mom told guests she was relieved someone would finally take care of me. Ashley laughed along. So, when Ashley vanished with Ophelia, I went to my parents. Sat in their living room on a Thursday. Explained everything. Said I needed help covering a lawyer retainer because Ashley was threatening to move 3 states away. My dad looked at me and said, why throw money at another one of my disasters? Said Ashley was the stable one, and maybe Ophelia would be better off with her. My mom nodded along. I need everyone to sit with what just happened. This man's daughter was taken from him. He goes to his parents. The people who are supposed to be your emergency backup humans. Your, I have nowhere else to turn people. And his father looked at him and said, why would we invest in you? Your grandchild is being held hostage by geography, and your response is to do a PowerPoint presentation on why your son is a bad investment. And mom is nodding along like she's in a board meeting approving this decision. These people heard, your granddaughter might disappear forever. And their first thought was, well, our son did drop out of community college 8 years ago, so the math ain't mathing for me. I spent 2 hours arguing. I had rights. I was Ophelia's father. My dad kept circling back to my failures. No steady income. Renting. That DUI from 8 years ago. Every mistake became ammunition. My mom added that Ashley always seemed level-headed and maybe I should consider what was best for Ophelia. I left with nothing. Scraped together money myself over 4 months. Double shifts. Sold my car, took buses, ate cheap, got a lawyer, started custody proceedings. Ashley fought hard, but the court eventually granted me joint custody with primary residence because her vanishing act counted against her. Here's where it gets wild. 6 weeks into the custody battle, I was scrolling my cousin April's Instagram at 2 a.m. She'd posted a dinner party photo. Nice table, candles. And in the background was my mother's dining room, her china cabinet. And sitting at the table, partially visible but unmistakable, was Ashley, my ex-wife, at my parents' house for family dinner. While I was eating ramen to afford a lawyer they refused to help fund, I didn't confront anyone immediately. I needed more information. What I found out next made that photo look like nothing. This man is eating ramen, selling his car, taking the bus in whatever weather because he can't afford transportation and a lawyer. Meanwhile, his parents are hosting candlelit dinner parties with fine china for the woman who stole his child. They couldn't give him money for a lawyer, but they could give Ashley a seat at the Thanksgiving table? The absolute betrayal. Here is cinematic. Like this is the kind of twist that makes you pause the movie and walk around your living room for a minute. And he found out through an Instagram background? Ashley is sitting there eating his mama's pot roast, probably using the guest towels, and his parents are smiling across the table, like they didn't tell their own son he was a lost cause 6 weeks ago. I'm genuinely stressed right now. Update 1. So after I saw that Instagram photo, I spent about a week doing reconnaissance. And yeah, I know how that sounds, but when your own parents are apparently hosting dinner parties with the woman who kidnapped your daughter, you get a little obsessive. I started paying attention to April's social media more carefully. She posts constantly. And over the next few days, I noticed a pattern. Comments from my mom on April's posts, little inside jokes, references to get-togethers I was never invited to. Then I found a photo from what April called girls' brunch about 2 months back. My mom, April, my aunt, and in the corner of the frame, Ashley holding Ophelia on her lap. My daughter. At a family event I knew nothing about, I texted April directly. Kept it casual at first, asked how she'd been, mentioned I saw she'd been hanging out with family more. She was friendly but vague. Then I asked straight up if Ashley had been at my mom's place recently. April went quiet for almost a full day before responding that she didn't want to get in the middle of anything. That told me everything I needed to know. I don't want to get in the middle of anything is the most useless sentence in the English language. April, babe, you're already in the middle. You're posting photographic evidence to the internet. You're not Switzerland. You're the court reporter who's pretending she can't read her own notes. And here's what's killing me. Ophelia was at these events. His own daughter was at family brunches, sitting on Ashley's lap, surrounded by his relatives, and nobody thought to tell him. Not one aunt, not one cousin. Everyone in that family looked at this situation and said, you know what? Let's just keep this from Micah. They created a whole parallel family universe where Ashley was in and he was out, and they all agreed silently to maintain it. I drove to my parents' house on a Saturday afternoon. No warning. My dad was in the garage working on something, and when he saw my car pull up, his whole body language changed. He came out wiping his hands on a rag, already defensive before I even opened my mouth. I didn't yell. I asked him calmly how long Ashley had been coming to family dinners. He tried to deflect, said he didn't know what I was talking about, but I pulled up April's photo on my phone and showed him. He went quiet for about 10 seconds and then said they were just trying to maintain a relationship with their granddaughter. I asked him why that required secretly inviting my ex-wife into his home while refusing to help me fight for custody of that same granddaughter. He said it wasn't that simple. I said it seemed pretty simple to me. He said Ashley reached out to them after she left, said she was struggling, said she needed support, and my parents, who couldn't spare a dime to help their own son see his child, apparently had unlimited emotional bandwidth for the woman who took her. It wasn't that simple. My guy, it is exactly that simple. Let me break this down for Earl in the garage. Your son asked for money to legally see his daughter. You said no. Your daughter-in-law, who illegally took that same granddaughter, called and said she was sad. You said, come on over for pot roast. That's not complicated. That's just favoritism with extra steps. And the way Dad's body language shifted when he saw the car pull up, he already knew he was caught. He was standing there wiping his hands like Lady Macbeth trying to get the guilt off. 10 seconds of silence after seeing that photo. 10 seconds. That's not thinking time, that's, oh no, my carefully constructed lie just collapsed time. My mom came outside then. She'd been watching from the kitchen window. She started in immediately about how I was always so dramatic, how they were just trying to keep the peace, how Ophelia needed stability and family connections. I asked her if she understood that Ashley had used their relationship to make herself look better in the custody evaluation, that the evaluator noted Ashley had strong family support while I appeared isolated. My mom said that wasn't their fault, that maybe if I'd been more stable myself, things would be different. I asked her point blank if she'd spoken to the custody evaluator. She didn't answer, which was an answer. My dad jumped in then, said I needed to stop looking for someone to blame and start taking responsibility, that Ashley might have made mistakes, but at least she was trying to build a life for Ophelia, that I was still the same mess I'd been at 22. I left without another word. But I wasn't done. Not even close, because here's what they didn't know. During those 4 months I spent scraping together lawyer money, I also got my act together in ways they never bothered to notice. New job, better pay, stable housing, and I'd started documenting everything about my parents' involvement with Ashley. Every photo, every tagged post, every family event I wasn't invited to. What they also didn't know was that Ashley's lease was coming up, and she'd been telling Ophelia that Grandma and Grandpa might let them move in. Stop. She didn't answer whether she spoke to the custody evaluator. She didn't answer. That woman potentially testified against her own son in a custody case and then blamed him for appearing isolated. You made him isolated. You literally created the isolation and then used it as evidence against him. That's like pushing someone into a pool and then telling the lifeguard, well, he's clearly not a strong swimmer. Look at him struggling. And the audacity of Dad saying, take responsibility while actively undermining him? Sir, your son sold his car, and you're lecturing him about responsibility from your paid-off house where you're hosting his ex-wife? But here's where my petty heart started singing. This man was documenting everything. He saw the chessboard. He understood the game. While they thought he was spiraling, he was building a case file. That's not drama. That's strategy. Update 2. Things escalated fast after that confrontation. I went radio silent on my parents, didn't block anyone, just stopped initiating. About 2 weeks passed. Then my brother called. Golden child himself, first time in months. He started with small talk but eventually got to it. Mom and Dad were upset. They felt I'd been unfair. And then the kicker. He said Ashley's lease was ending and our parents were considering letting her stay in their basement apartment temporarily. He wanted to know if I'd be okay with that. I asked if he was serious. He said he was trying to keep the peace. I told him our parents spent months treating the woman who took my daughter like family while treating me like garbage, and now they wanted to move her into their house. He said I was being dramatic, that Ashley made a mistake, but she was still Ophelia's mother. I asked where this energy was when I needed help with legal fees. He got quiet, then said he didn't want to get involved because it seemed like a lost cause. A lost cause. His own brother fighting for his daughter. There's the golden child, finally making his cameo appearance. First call in months, and it's not to check on his brother, not to ask about his niece, but to do PR for mommy and daddy. They felt you'd been unfair. Unfair? To who? The people who secretly replaced him with his ex-wife. And then, he has the absolute audacity to ask if Micah would be okay with Ashley moving into the basement. Like this is a roommate situation. Like Ashley is just some random person who needs a place to crash. Brother really said, would you mind if the woman who kidnapped your daughter lived rent-free with the parents who funded her side and not yours? That's not keeping the peace, that's choosing a side and pretending you're neutral. And lost cause? He called his brother's custody fight a lost cause and now wants to broker peace? This family is allergic to supporting Micah. I told him to pass along a message. If Ashley moved in, I'd file a custody modification requesting supervised visitation for any time Ophelia spent with them. My lawyer confirmed this was possible given their willingness to undermine me. I wasn't bluffing. 3 days later, my mom showed up at my apartment unannounced. Ophelia was at preschool. She wanted to clear the air, she said. She explained they never meant to hurt me. When Ashley reached out after leaving, she seemed lost and scared. Ashley had told them I'd been controlling during the marriage, that she felt trapped. My mom said they believed her because they'd always worried about my temper. My temper. I asked when I'd ever shown a temper. She couldn't give a specific example, just said I'd always been intense, difficult. I asked if Ashley had proof. She said a woman's fear should be believed. I asked if she believed me when I said I was terrified of losing my daughter. She didn't answer. This is the part that genuinely makes me sick. Ashley, who committed an actual crime by taking Ophelia without notice, told his parents that he was controlling, and they believed it. Not because they had evidence, not because they witnessed anything, because they always worried about his temper. What temper? When? Where? Give me one example. She couldn't. She had nothing. Just vibes. Just he seemed intense. And then, she weaponizes the very real concept of believing women to justify not believing her own son about his fear of losing his child. She used social justice language to avoid answering a direct question. When he said, "I'm terrified of losing my daughter," that woman couldn't even extend him the basic courtesy of acknowledgement. Not "I hear you." Not "I understand." Just deflection. She showed up to clear the air and instead filled it with smoke. She pivoted instead. Said Ashley had nowhere to go. Said if I cared about Ophelia's stability, I should want her mother housed. I said that wasn't my problem. She called me cruel. I told her cruel was refusing to help your son while secretly funding his replacement. She tried to deny giving Ashley money. I said Ophelia had mentioned grandma giving mommy grocery money multiple times. Her face changed. She asked what I wanted from them. I said nothing, but I'd make sure they understood every choice has consequences. She left without goodbye. 2 days ago, Ashley texted me directly. First time in months outside custody exchanges. She wants to talk, says things have gotten complicated, but she has a proposal. I know what the proposal is. I've been waiting for this. Ophelia told on them. The 4-year-old was the whistleblower. This woman stood in her son's apartment trying to deny giving Ashley money, and her face dropped because she realized a preschooler doesn't know how to lie strategically. Kids just say what they see. Grandma gives mommy grocery money. That's not an accusation, that's just Tuesday for a 4-year-old. And mom had the nerve to call him cruel while she's standing there caught in a lie? She's been funding his ex, hosting his ex, possibly testifying for his ex, and she's calling him cruel for not wanting to help house her. The absolute delusion. And now Ashley wants to talk because she's finally realizing the gravy train has conditions. Oh, I am ready for this meeting. Final update. I met Ashley at a neutral spot, a diner near the courthouse where we'd finalized our custody arrangement. She looked tired. Started immediately with the pitch. She needed housing. My parents were willing to help, but I was threatening to make that impossible. She wanted us to come to an agreement so everyone could move forward. I let her talk. She explained she never meant to turn my family against me, that they reached out to her after she left, that they wanted to maintain a relationship with Ophelia. She said my mom had told her repeatedly that I was always the difficult one, that they'd spent years cleaning up my messes and were tired. Ashley said she just accepted what they told her. I asked her if she ever once considered that my own parents might be wrong about me. She said honestly, no, because everything they said matched how she felt during our marriage. That I was always struggling, always needing something, never quite stable enough. That confirmed everything I needed to know. This is actually fascinating in a horrible way. Ashley really sat there and told him, I believed everything bad your parents said about you because it confirmed what I already thought. She literally admitted to using their bias as validation for hers. She never questioned whether his own parents might be unfair to him because it was convenient not to question it. It gave her justification. It gave her allies. It gave her family dinners and grocery money. Why would she interrogate a narrative that was working perfectly in her favor? And here's the thing that's so telling. She didn't even pretend she'd considered his perspective. She just said, honestly, no. She was so comfortable in that position she didn't even have the self-awareness to lie about it. That's wild. I told her I wasn't negotiating. I told her I'd already filed the custody modification. Not because of where she lived, but because the evaluation would now include documentation of my parents actively working against the custodial parent. I showed her copies of the Instagram photos, screenshots of my mom's comments on Ashley's posts, records of the family events Ophelia attended that I was never told about, all of it compiled and submitted. She said I was being petty. I said I was being thorough. The next week I went to my parents' house one final time. Both of them were there. My dad started immediately saying I was tearing the family apart over nothing. My mom said I'd always been ungrateful, that they'd spent my whole life trying to help me succeed, and I kept failing. Then she said what I'll never forget. She looked at me and said Ashley was the daughter they wished they'd had, that I was just a wreck they were done rescuing. I smiled, told them got it. They wouldn't have to deal with me anymore. I meant it. Ashley was the daughter they wished they'd had. That line is going to live in my brain rent-free forever because it tells you everything about this family. They didn't want a son. They wanted someone who agreed with them, someone who needed them in ways that made them feel important, someone who was grateful in the specific way they demanded gratitude. Ashley performed the role. She laughed at their jokes about Micah at his own wedding. She called them when she needed support. She let them feel like saviors. And Micah? Micah needed actual help, not performance help. He needed them to show up without being thanked for it. That's not what they wanted. And the fact that Mom said this out loud means she'd been thinking it for years. That wasn't an outburst, that was a confession. And Micah smiling? That smile was the sound of every last hope dying and peace beginning. He was finally free of trying to earn something that was never available to him. Filed the modification, got Ophelia's custody adjusted so I had full decision-making authority. Then I took a job offer I'd been sitting on for months. 3 states away, perfectly legal, fully within my rights as primary custodial parent. I left, took my daughter, started over. That was a year ago. My parents call every night now. They want to see Ophelia. They want to apologize. They say they made mistakes. My dad, who told me I was a disaster, now leaves voicemails asking me to please not abandon them. My mom texts constantly that she didn't mean what she said. I don't respond. Ophelia is thriving. I'm stable. And they finally understand what it feels like to beg family for something and get nothing back. They chose Ashley. Now they can keep that choice. This ending is chef's kiss levels of poetic justice. They call every night now. The man who said his son's custody fight was a disaster is leaving voicemails begging not to be abandoned. The woman who said Ashley was the daughter she wished she'd had now has neither daughter nor son, nor granddaughter. And you know what? Ashley's probably not picking up their calls anymore either, because Ashley never actually cared about Earl and Nellie. She cared about what they could provide. The moment Micah left, she had no reason to perform for them. So now these people are sitting in their house with their fine china and their basement apartment and nothing. They traded their real son for a performance, and the performer has left the stage. Every night they call. Every night, silence. That's not cruelty. That's just the natural consequence of their choices coming home to roost.